Now, it is my honor to introduce our first presenter to the stage. During these last 7 years of learning how to be a CEO, there is one magazine that has mentored me more than any other, and that is Fast Company. So I'm thrilled to welcome Fast Company's Chief Revenue Officer, Christina Cranley, to the stage to present the Mentorship Duo of the Year Award.
I got this feeling.
Good song. Thank you, Tammy. It is such a privilege and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank everybody who made today possible. This is just a really incredible morning, and I'm inspired by all of the stories. I wanted to pay a particular mention to Tammy Tibbetts. You are something very, very special. She came on Fast Company's radar in 2012 in our League of Extraordinary Women, and I think you can feel that just by hearing her talk today. She later then found herself on the esteemed Most Creative People community of Fast Company. And Bob says hi. He says he wishes he could be here. Since then, Tammy has continued to accelerate the momentum around She's the First, providing scholarships for young women to become the first in their families to graduate high school. At Fast Company, we see plenty great companies, but what we know is that most great companies have mentorship a part of their DNA. Everyone needs someone to lean on, especially me, in particular women as well, especially myself. Having mentors is very, very important. It's made a difference for me in terms of my confidence and in terms of my commitment to leadership. I worked for many years, 20 years, for Martha Stewart, and what she said to me was, as my mentor, it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or whether you are a man. Just go learn something new every day and go teach it to somebody else. Teaching, guiding, counseling have always been a part of my North Star. I'm proud to work for a company that recognizes the power of learning, but more importantly, recognizes diversity. I'm proud to tell you that Fast Company has 57% of the workforce are women. And I can tell you, at our executive management meetings, 50% of the people at those meetings are women as well. I'm also proud of the men and the women that I have mentored that have gone on to achieve wildly successful careers. But what's great about it is now I turn to them to mentor me back, particularly in this new innovation and socially driven economy where I need some help. Mentorship, it really never ends. It really is the gift that keeps giving back. I found this quote that I wanted to share. When you think about mentorship, look to someone as a mentor who personifies not what you want to materially achieve, but the kind of person that you aspire to be. When Tammy first met with editor Bob Safian about her latest endeavor, Adopt a Cause, because she's got to have another cause, right? Bob knew that they were on to something. Fast Company is deeply passionate about the evolving dynamics of the workforce and the workplace. The future of work 10 years from now is going to look vastly different from when it looked 10 years ago. I mean, just think about it. WeWork, open workspaces, hoteling at office spaces, automation technology. The workforce is changing. And over the next few years, it's likely to change again, which means companies have to think differently and they have to disrupt. Adopt a Cause is a very positive answer to the future of work. Adopt a Cause is a budding movement to address a common problem and oftentimes the biggest financial burdens of nonprofits, and that is finding affordable workspaces. Real estate, renting, leasing, it's hugely expensive. Adopt a Cause has a solution for that. A rewarding opportunity to marry bigger established companies with nonprofits by leveraging those companies' unused desk space, workspaces, and their supporting technologies. And when you marry great companies, great people, and purpose-driven companies, amazing things happen. It becomes a win-win. She's the First was the first adoptee, and the New York Foundling was the first host company. It was the first match for Adopt the Cause, and it has become a real win-win in terms of the office space was there, and the New York Foundling could use some help from She's the First with their social media expertise. So it really was a ripple effect. The New York Foundling is New York's oldest and largest nonprofits focusing on children and family services. 2 women in particular at the New York Foundling are working to prove out the Adopt-A-Cause model, and they want to take that first match and they want to increase it by 10 times in 2017. The Adopt-A-Cause mission and energy would not be possible without 2 women, Bethany Lampland, Chief Operating Officer at the New York Foundling, and Morgan McCray, Manager of Business Operations. Those 2 ladies are the deserving recipients of the Mentorship Duo of the Year Award. And let's see more about them.
In 1869, Mark Twain published his first book. Ulysses Grant was elected president, and the only women in the United States who were able to vote lived in Wyoming.
And in 1869, the Sisters of Charity began taking abandoned babies off the streets of New York. A lot has changed over the intervening decades, but our mission has stayed the same. Today we have over 1,800 employees working with New York City's disadvantaged children.
I am so proud to be one of those employees. I remember actually when Bethany first came to me after meeting with She's the First and explained such a simple but impactful concept. The idea that we're already sharing space in our values and our mission, why not share physical space?
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of not-for-profits doing amazing work, but they simply cannot afford office space in the cities in which they live and work. So we thought, what if a 147-year-old organization paired up with a 7-year-old organization to tackle this problem?
Today, the New York Foundling and She's the First are not only building a movement, we are living it. The New York Foundling provides She's the First with office space and access to administrative guidance in key areas such as finance, communications, and development. And in return, She's the First contributes programming and is working to increase the Foundling's visibility via social media.
One of the most important benefits of the Adopt-A-Cause movement is the collaboration. We actually are partnering with She's the First to do our first ever Unity Walk. This not only supports the Foundling's wellness program, but through the use of charity miles, we are actually supporting She's the First scholars on top of that.
We believe that changing the world can begin with changing the workplace.
Very deserving recipients of this year's Mentorship Duo Award, Bethany and Morgan.
First, Christina, thank you so much for that introduction. It's a beautiful introduction, but it's all the more meaningful to have someone like yourself and the imprimatur of Fast Company to endorse such an important movement. And we thank you all for being interested in what Morgan and I and Tammy and Kristen and Perry have been working very hard on for quite some time now. I think we all gravitate toward different causes, and there are a myriad amazing causes out there for different reasons, but often they're very personal. For me, as a young girl who grew up in a very small farming community in the Midwest, I always knew that education was my earned lottery ticket to a different life. And that is what I think that She's the First is in the business of doing. It's so meaningful to me what they do, because I think what they do is they hand out earned lottery tickets to young girls all over the world. So I want to thank Tammy and Kristen and She's the First for what they do and for letting us be a tiny little part of it. So thank you. So I first met Tammy a couple years ago through an amazing woman who happens to be a mentor of mine, Denise Rostari, who you met earlier, and also happens to be quite interested in She's the First. Tammy and I hit it off immediately, And early on in those conversations, Tammy talked about how one of the biggest challenges for She's the First is that they bounce around from office space to office space, wherever they could find some donated space to try to do their amazing work. Not only is that just a tragedy, but I shared with Tammy that I had this little seed of an idea for quite some time that just shouldn't be the case for not-for-profits around our urban centers. You know, I think we all know that there's a housing crisis and most of the big cities in this country. I think we all think about that in the context of individuals, but what we don't realize is that not-for-profits are also facing the same housing crisis. They simply cannot find homes to do the work that is so important in the cities where their clients live and where their donors are. And I think we all owe it to the world to change that. The amazing work of small and nimble organizations like She's the First must happen. It's not only a detriment for these not-for-profits, but for the entire world and those who depend on the critical services that they provide. So we're asking all of you to think a little bit about today, whether your companies or whether companies that you know of might consider taking a resource that's completely underutilized, open desk spaces, and repurposing them, bringing in an amazing not-for-profit for a temporary amount of time, reaping the benefit of all the energy and the positive aspects of bringing in a new culture into your own, and really using an asset that would otherwise go to waste to do something incredibly meaningful. Morgan and I would love to talk to anyone in this audience about ways to get involved. It's incredibly easy and incredibly impactful. So Morgan and I are here today in part as a mentorship duo. And for me, it's been amazing and it's very flattering to be considered a mentor by Morgan. But as Denise mentioned earlier today, I really consider Morgan a mentor as well. The amount that I have learned from Morgan, having someone nearly a decade younger bring her perspective and her talents to this office that we share every day, has been extraordinary for me. And I thank you, Morgan, for being an amazing colleague and a friend, and I look forward to many more years of doing amazing things together. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Bethany. So I love that you brought up the personal, because this is also very personal for me. I'd like to share that when I make an introduction to someone new, one of the fun facts that I share about myself is that I've never lived in the same place for 6 consecutive years. It's kind of an oddball, and that's usually followed by a question about, well, why not? And where do you consider home? Like, claim something, right? You can't just be a floater. And I think it's such an interesting question, one that I don't often have the same answer to, if I have an answer at all. But I think it's an interesting question because what it says is that people are listening for how your home, how you relate to the physical spaces you live in, you play in, you work in, how they shape you and what stories they tell. So it's really about my space and what that means for the opportunity that I have and have had, my beliefs and the perspectives that I hold. I think space is so important, and for that reason, I am so proud to have been a part of the Adopt a Cause, or developing, really, the Adopt a Cause movement. If it's not clear already, a lot of passion has gone into this. I come to this very willingly and feeling so fulfilled by this experience. Bethany, if it's not clear already, is a visionary, and many people have great ideas, but few bring them to life. And so I am so happy that I was asked to be a part of this experience and development, and I hope to also continue developing more grand ideas with you. And to She's the First, you have been fabulous co-creators, tremendous partners in the development of Adopt a Cause, and really a welcomed extension of the Foundling family. So thank you. Between you and me, consider yourselves adopted for life. And thank you. Thank you seriously for everything you do for girls and young women all over the world. It's nearly 2017, and clearly there's a lot of work to be done. So I have a call to all of you in the room. Please seriously consider joining this movement. You can learn more about it at adoptacause.info.
Thank you.